As Ethel indicated, my name is Karen White, and I'm an attorney, and I work for the Pacific Justice Institute, and we are a national nonprofit, and we have lawyers in almost every state, and we provide free legal representation in defense of religious freedoms or in defense of parental rights. And we're fully funded by donations, which is really amazing to me that God has given us so many supporters across the country. And if you're interested in supporting the organization, there's some paperwork on the table as you came in. Feel free to take it with you. I want to thank Ethel for inviting me to come tonight to speak. I met Ethel sometime over the past year when she expressed a crazy interest to run for school board. As I said, I'm an attorney, but I spent 7 years on the school board at my daughter's school. I have two older daughters in college now, and they went to the Northfield Community School, and I ran 3 different times, and fortunately or unfortunately was elected 3 times, and served for about 7 years on the Northfield School Board. I also worked in a local school district as an in-house counsel, and so I have spent and also worked as an assistant to a board solicitor. So I've really been behind the board table as an attorney for the board table, and while my daughters were in school, as a mom before a school board. So I've sat in all of the seats, and what that has enabled me to do is give some guidance to others who are interested in school board but really don't have a clue what it's about. And I've been able to work with some local school board members here in South Jersey to help them get elected and to help them effectively act as school board members in the best way that they can do that. So on your way out, I urge you, as they ask us to do at PJI all the time, if you're interested in supporting our nonprofit, we would appreciate you taking some paperwork. How many people here tonight either have children or grandchildren in the public school system? Mostly everyone here, and I assume that. That's why you're here. It's an interest that's near and dear to your heart. Before we start, I want to give you some interesting statistics. Then I'd like to give you a Bible verse that I think I keep close to my heart when I'm doing this kind of work. According to the New Jersey Department of Education, enrollment is down 36,000 in public schools in the last decade. By 2031, they project that enrollment will drop another 7.5%, or an additional 100,000 students will leave public school. The National Center for Education Statistics tells us that an additional nationwide 2.4 million students, or nearly 5%, will leave public schools. And here's one other statistic that I want you to keep in mind tonight, and you may all be aware of it. Voter turnout. In November of 2023, Atlantic County had a little over 200,000 registered voters. A little over 60,000 turned out to vote, approximately 30%. So as you hear what I talk about tonight, I urge you to keep in mind the importance of voting. It can't be overstated. And I know there may be some in the room that have problems with the mail-in ballots, but I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you mail it in or you show up and pull a lever. Just make sure you vote, and everyone in your household votes. That's important. So here's the Bible verse. I tell myself this almost every day. I don't have it memorized. I'm not a good memorizer. My pastor keeps telling me to memorize the Bible. I remember key phrases, and I get the gist of it, but I can never rattle it off as good as some of the pastors can. So impressive. Ephesians 6:12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. The reason I remind myself of that Bible verse almost every day is because I'm by nature very argumentative. And that's why I'm a lawyer. I like to argue. It comes easily to me. I have to remind myself to be kind when I argue. But when I hear that verse, it reminds me that I'm not arguing against people. I'm not arguing against a superintendent. I'm not arguing against fellow board members. I'm not even arguing against the really annoying human being with the poster that shows up at every board meeting and tells the board members that they're hateful and horrible and they're terrible. I'm not fighting against that person. Jesus doesn't want us to fight against other people. He wants us to protect our children from the evil forces. And so when I engage in these type of arguments, if I'm speaking to someone who starts to use any kind of derogatory language about the other side, I usually step away and I say, I don't want to speak that way, because I don't think that, one, gets us anywhere, and two, if Jesus was standing next to me, he would remind me, Karen, stop cursing and be kind. So these are difficult conversations. What I see as the best path forward for Christians in public school are two main goals, two main areas: transparency and the ability to remain faithful to your beliefs. So let's talk about the first one, transparency. We know that schools are teaching your children and my children, promoting values that are in stark opposition to biblical values: sexual promiscuity, abortion, without parental consent, homosexual lifestyles, transgender lifestyles. They're stocking the school libraries with inappropriate sexual content. Unfortunately, at this point under the law, parents have a very, very difficult time challenging what is taught in schools, challenging the curriculum. It's very, very difficult under the law, and some of you may not want to hear this, but it is difficult to say, that's against my religion and I don't want my child taught that. The reality is, and I'm here to just be honest with all of you, the courts are saying that's okay. And here's the reasoning. If we started nitpicking everything that anybody in the world is against in public school, it would result in kind of mayhem. So what their argument is we're exposing your child to various ideas and beliefs. And it's your responsibility as parents to impart upon your children which beliefs you believe in. Now, personally as a Christian, I don't necessarily buy that. I think what they're doing is more of indoctrination and going overboard. But legally, right now, it's very difficult to challenge what's in the curriculum. So in response to that, as the lawyer in me says, well, then how can we fight it? How can we stand up against it? And the first step that you can do is demand transparency from your districts. Demand to know what they're teaching, when they're teaching it, what resources they're using, what videos they're showing, what books they're reading, and what assemblies they're giving to your children. When you know all of those things, you'll be better informed to speak with your child about your beliefs and what you believe in your home. One specific policy that many of you may be aware of is 5756. If you're in this room and this is a subject that interests you, you may have heard of it, you may have not. It is the transgendered guidance policy from the New Jersey Department of Education. And most of the school districts in the state of New Jersey have adopted it. When it originally came out, the state said it was mandatory. Through some litigation, we later found out that the Attorney General kind of slithered around and said, it's not really mandatory. And so some schools have repealed it. And I know it's one of Ethel's goals in Galloway to have it repealed in Galloway. What the guidance says is that parents are kept in the dark. The schools have a right to not inform parents when a student expresses a gender identity issue. The Attorney General has actually said in some legal filings that the school outing kids to their parents is harmful. And he stands by that. It's one of his main arguments, that outing kids to their parents is harmful. And I know, I would believe to assume that everyone here in this room does not agree with that. We raise our children. We're responsible for our children, not the Attorney General. So we can all agree it's wrong. What can you do about it? Well, if you have a child or a grandchild in public school, demand that parental consent is given before your child speaks to a school counselor. Send them an email, tell them in writing, send them a letter. I and my husband or whoever is in your household demand to be notified prior to you speaking to my child any guidance counselor, any administrative official, anyone conducting an investigation. Get them on, let them know that you're demanding parental notice to do that. That's transparency. And that's the first step in giving yourself the tools to manage your child's experience in public education. And that's parental rights. Second, let's talk about the freedom to believe what you want. Right now, the transgender guidance says school districts shall accept, honor, and recognize a student's asserted gender identity. At PJI, we have a case pending in federal court where I am arguing, you, state of New Jersey, cannot tell me what to believe. You can control my conduct because I can't discriminate against someone. I can't treat someone in a poor manner. Hopefully I wouldn't do that anyway because Jesus doesn't want me to do that. But you cannot mandate that I believe as you believe. Gender ideology, creationism, all the issues of sexuality, marriage, the state can't mandate your beliefs. And that's another thing that we need to protect in public schools. It's what PJI is working for across the country, particularly in New Jersey. I'm quite busy. So if your child's being told in school, and you know it because you've done all the things to be transparent and be informed, and you learn that your child must attend an assembly on an issue that is contrary to your biblical beliefs, your child can't be mandated to sing along or give answers or responses affirming what the state wants them to affirm. If that happens, my card is on the table, shoot me an email. Let me know that that's happening, because that is where I think we can find the most legal success, is when the schools mandate a belief. Our Constitution says very clearly, you cannot do that. We have the freedom to believe whatever we want. It takes me back to Ephesians 6:12. We're not fighting against those individuals who are lost and believe that gender is fluid, or that marriage can be between two individuals of the same sex. Our fight is for the souls of our children to remain close to Jesus. Right now, as I said, you can't stop the assembly from happening according to the law, but you can demand that you be aware of it before it occurs and make sure that your child's not being asked to participate in the assembly, which would result in them agreeing, affirming, or saying in any way that they agree with what's being presented. Again, if there's any situation that arises, you find yourself in that, please get in touch with PJI, and we're happy to help you navigate how to handle that. So we've established two goals: transparency and the freedom to believe what you want to believe. How do we achieve those goals? Well, Christians have to run for school board. It's that simple. There's biblical support for doing so. The Bible teaches us the education of our children, especially in moral and religious matters, is the responsibility of parents. The Lord commanded Israel to teach his laws to their children. Deuteronomy 6:6 and 7. These words, which I am commanding you today, shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Psalm 78:5. For he established a testimony in Jacob and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should teach them to their children. Paul writes of professional responsibility in Ephesians 6:4. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Parents, you have a solemn responsibility. Grandparents, guardians, people who have children in their care have a solemn responsibility, according to the Bible, to ensure that while they can't control public school educational policy, and they can't demand that it be aligned with biblical worldviews, they must protect Christian families the right to attend public school without having to give up their faith in Jesus. So, How do you run for school board? I am sure you're sitting in that seat thinking, well, that's for that lady who likes to talk, and look at her, she doesn't care. And I don't. I love public speaking. I could stand up here and talk to you guys forever. That's not normal, right? That's weird. Most people are like, no, I couldn't do that. I have no interest in that. But if the Lord has put it on your heart to do it, you might as well do it, because it's the best thing for you to do. Now, believe me, and I tell this to Liz all the time. I argue with God all the time about what he puts on my heart. I say to him, come on, big guy, that's not good. I got a better plan. That never works out. It's always his plan that's better. So as you sit in that seat, if the Lord's put it on your heart to run for school board, the first thing you should do, start attending school board meetings. Just go and watch. Before I ran for school board, when my oldest daughter, who's now going to be a senior in college, was in first grade, I went to the school board meetings. I took a book. I sat in the back, and I just listened. Like, how does this work? What do these people do? How does this happen? And I learned. And if something perked my ear up, I'm like, oh, wait, let me listen. Hold on, let me put my book down. What's going on? Again, at that time, there wasn't as much controversy. There was still some. So that's the first step. Start going to your school board meetings every month. Put it on your calendar. If you are going to run, you have to obtain a nominating petition. You get that from your county clerk. It's really easy. All you need is 10 signatures. Your spouse, maybe an adult child, a cousin, an aunt, a neighbor, boom, you got 10. You turn it into the county clerk, and then magically your name appears on the ballot. And if you decide to do that, again, pick up my card on the way out, and I am more than happy to walk you through every step of the way and provide you with support and guidance. And sometimes I'll support you and be kind and loving, and other times I'll yell at you and say, stop. But someone has to do it. Someone has to stand up. When you're planning your campaign, when you're figuring out how to get elected, there is support out there. You won't be alone in doing it. If God is not calling you to be a school board member, vote. Make sure you vote and help other people who are campaigning. Put a sign on your lawn. Do a phone bank calling for them. Give them a donation so they can buy some campaign materials. Get to know the people on your school board. Figure out which ones align with your values and support them. Maybe a text or an email saying, hey, that was a tough meeting tonight. I got your back. Please, I'm praying for you. Because that's the other thing. Vote and pray. Every day, every night, pray for your school board. Pray for your school leaders. Pray for all of the students within the school and all of the teachers. Clearly, those that are against us are very organized. They're dedicated, they're passionate, and they show up. They're not afraid to show up. They're loud and they're proud. And sometimes I think Christians are like, I really don't want to get involved in that. That sounded really awful. Like a lot of yelling and screaming, and that's not for me. You have to show up. And you don't have to speak, but you have to, if you're a Christian, I believe you have a biblical moral responsibility to get out there. Stand up for Jesus. Even parents who have removed their children from public school, there remains a threat to our civil society, public school, without Christian influence. Proverbs 14:34. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a disgrace to any people. It's important, even if your kids don't attend public school. Right now, I had 2 older daughters in college who went all through the public school system. And like I said, I was on the school board and highly involved. And now I have 2 younger daughters that we adopted who are in 2nd grade, and I'm way too old to have 2nd graders, but I do. Again, because the Lord asked me to. I fought with them on it, but They go to the Atlantic Christian School here in Egg Harbor Township. And I love it. It's a phenomenal school. They're getting, it's just, I can't speak highly enough about the Atlantic Christian School. But that doesn't mean that I can just wipe my hands of public school and say, not my problem. I can't live in my little Christian bubble and go to Atlantic Christian and think, I don't care what they do at the public schools. It doesn't matter to me. It does matter. And God calls us to care for those who are lost, care for those who don't have someone in their home saying to them, I've got a better way. What the state is telling you will lead you down a path of destruction. Jesus tells us, I have a better way. President John Adams commented on the importance of morality to a constitutional republic. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Every citizen has a responsibility to ensure that school board members will promote policies that support morality and civil government. So I have 3 takeaways. My first one, pray. Pray for your school board. Pray for your administrators. Pray for your teachers. Pray for your school board members. Second, vote in every single school board election. Research the candidates. Find those that stand firmly on biblical principles. Ask the candidates, the board members, the school staff. Ask them substantive questions. Will you commit to transparency so that parents know what their children are learning at all times? 3, engage and be informed by attending your BOE meetings. The low voter turnout in our elections is an opportunity. If only a few churches in each district could motivate a block of voters to support Christian candidates, we could change the direction of public school. Thank you all for your time tonight.